Let's be real. Every woman has, at some point, asked herself this question. How do I know if I'm the one he's truly serious about, or just the one he's dating until someone better comes along? And honestly, it's a fair question. Because men do commit, they do fall hard. But the difference between the woman he dates and the woman he chooses for the long haul isn't just about looks or timing. It's about how she makes him feel, what she brings to the table, and how she shows up in his life. This isn't about playing games. It's not about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about understanding how men actually think when it comes to love, partnership, and choosing someone as their forever. So if you've ever wondered what flips that switch in a man's mind, from she's amazing to she's the one I can't let go, you're in the right place. When a man is thinking about whether a woman is the one of the most underrated but absolutely crucial factors is how he feels when he's around her. Not just in the exciting moments, not just when things are passionate or fun, but in the quiet, day-to-day energy between you. Does he feel tense, anxious, judged, or does he feel like he can breathe? It's easy to assume men fall for the woman who excites them the most, or the one who constantly surprises them. And yes, attraction and chemistry play their part. But for long-term commitment, there's something much deeper at work, a sense of emotional peace. A man might date the woman who gives him butterflies, but he stays with the woman who gives him clarity. So what does that peace actually look like? It's when he doesn't feel like he's walking on eggshells, when he knows he can say what's on his mind without it turning into a fight or a test. It's the comfort of being seen and accepted for who he is, without feeling like he constantly has to prove himself to keep your attention or approval. That doesn't mean you're passive or never challenge him. In fact, the right kind of challenge can deepen a man's respect for you. But there's a massive difference between challenging someone from a place of security and love versus doing it from insecurity or control. Men are often navigating a world that already demands a lot of performance at work, with their peers, even with their families. So when they come into a relationship, they don't want more pressure to perform. They want to feel like they've come home. They want to know that even in their imperfect, messy moments, there's still enough in your eyes. And that feeling of emotional safety, that's rare. That's what makes a woman unforgettable. Many women try to stand out by showing how supportive, sexy, or successful they are. And while those things are absolutely valuable, they aren't always the deciding factor. If those traits come with emotional volatility, mood swings, passive aggressiveness, constant testing or games, he might enjoy the ride for a while, but he won't build his life around it. Peace is what makes him imagine forever. And peace isn't about being quiet or easygoing. It's about emotional maturity. It's about how you handle conflict. It's how you respond when things don't go your way. It's whether your confidence makes him feel safe or makes him feel like he's constantly being evaluated. Men remember the way a woman makes them feel more than anything else. And if you make him feel calm, strong, and respected when he's with you, he'll find himself drawn to you again and again without always understanding why. You don't have to be perfect to offer peace. You just have to be self-aware. You don't have to agree on everything. You just need to communicate in a way that honors both of your dignity. You don't have to hide your standards or emotions, but how you express them makes all the difference. So when a man is asking himself, could I do life with this woman? One of the loudest answers comes not from his mind, but from his body. How does she make me feel when I'm around her? Am I more grounded, more myself, or do I feel like I'm constantly auditioning for her approval? A woman who makes him feel at peace, who makes the chaos of the world feel a little quieter when he's with her. That's the woman he doesn't just want to keep around. That's the woman he'll choose. When a man starts to think seriously about whether a woman could be the one, he's not just looking at who she is in the moment, he's looking at whether he can see a shared future with her. It's easy to assume that if your lifestyles match, if you both like the same restaurants, travel to similar places, or enjoy the same shows, that you're naturally compatible. But surface-level lifestyle alignment isn't what makes a man decide to commit for the long haul. What he's really looking at is whether your values and ambitions align, whether the direction you're going in life matches his. That's where true compatibility lives. Men often meet women who they enjoy spending time with, but who don't actually inspire them. They might have fun, feel chemistry, even feel some comfort, but they don't feel pulled to grow. When a woman brings depth to the table, when she has her own dreams, her own purpose, her own sense of mission, she commands a different kind of attention. She doesn't need to say she's different. It's obvious in the way she lives. And for the right man, that's magnetic. A woman who matches his ambition isn't necessarily in the same industry or earning the same income. It's not about matching his job title. It's about matching his drive. It's the energy of, I'm building something too. Whether she's building a business, a creative path, a community, a family, or simply herself, she's living a life with intention. That inspires a man to keep building his own life better and to want to build it with her. What's interesting is that men are often assumed to fear strong, driven women. But most high-quality men don't fear that at all. They crave it. What they fear is a relationship that pulls them away from their purpose. When they meet someone who amplifies their vision rather than competes with it or distracts from it, they take notice. That's the kind of partnership they want to protect and prioritize. This doesn't mean you have to constantly perform or prove your value. In fact, men are turned off by women who hustle for their worth in relationships. But when you show up as someone who is already fulfilled, who already has meaning in her day, who's passionate about something outside of just the relationship, it signals something powerful. You don't need him to complete you. You've already built a life you love, and he's being invited into it. That changes the dynamic completely. He no longer feels like he's being evaluated as good enough to make you happy. Instead, he feels lucky to be chosen by someone who's already happy on her own. And that energy, that mutual growth, that aligned purpose feels like partnership, not pressure. It's worth noting that ambition doesn't always mean chasing the next promotion or living a hyper-productive life. It could mean being deeply committed to personal growth, learning, health, or community. Whatever it is, it shows you're not standing still. You're evolving. And a man who's also evolving wants someone he can evolve with. So when a man is asking himself, is she the one? He's not just imagining the next date. He's imagining the next decade. Will she walk beside me when I take risks? Will she still be growing while I'm growing? Will she push me to be better? Not because she demands it, but because her presence naturally inspires it. That's the kind of woman a man commits to. Not just the one who fits into his current life, but the one who helps him imagine a bigger one. There's a distinct moment when a man shifts from enjoying someone's company to seeing her as someone he could build a future with. And that moment often has less to do with physical attraction or even compatibility, and more to do with a deeper emotional experience. He feels genuinely admired. Not just liked, not just appreciated, but truly seen for who he is and valued for it. This kind of admiration touches something core in him. It doesn't feed his ego in a superficial way. It fuels his sense of purpose, confidence, and masculine identity. When a man feels admired, he starts to show up differently. He becomes more open, more generous, more emotionally invested. Because at the heart of every man, especially one who's emotionally mature, is the desire to be recognized for what he is, not just what he does. And this admiration doesn't come from empty flattery or constant praise. It comes from paying attention to what he cares about, what he tries hard at, and who he is at his core. Liking someone is easy. You can like someone's sense of humor, how fun they are to be around, or how attractive they are. But admiration is on another level. It's when you respect how he thinks, how he handles challenges, the principles he lives by, even if he doesn't always get it right. When a man feels like you see the best in him and believe in his potential, that's powerful. It's not about putting him on a pedestal. It's about reflecting back to him the strength and value he already holds, especially in a world that doesn't always give him that credit. This is one of the biggest emotional distinctions between the woman a man dates casually and the one he can't stop thinking about long after she leaves the room. Because the woman who admires him doesn't just make him feel loved, she makes him feel respected. And that kind of respect doesn't just boost his mood, it changes the way he sees you. You go from someone who makes him feel good in the moment to someone who makes him want to rise up, take responsibility, and offer his best self to you. It's important to understand that this isn't about stroking his ego or pretending to be impressed by things you don't actually care about. Real admiration is honest, it's specific, and it shows up in subtle moments. A genuine, "I love the way your mind works," or "You handled that so well," or even just staying curious about what drives him. These small expressions of admiration create a space where a man feels like he doesn't have to compete or prove, he can simply be, and that's enough. In contrast, if a man constantly feels like he's falling short, being judged or being compared to others, he'll start to pull back. Not because he's afraid of growth or feedback, but because no one wants to stay in a dynamic where they feel like they're never enough. And this is where many women unintentionally miss the mark. They think challenging him or keeping him humble will keep him interested, but often what it does is slowly chip away at his emotional safety. When a man meets a woman who respects him, not for being perfect, but for being real and for trying, he begins to associate her with emotional strength, not just emotional support. She becomes the person he wants to come home to, the person whose opinion matters most, the person he wants to impress, not because she demands it, but because she already sees him as worthy and he wants to live up to that reflection. That kind of admiration builds trust, it builds intimacy, and for a man, it's often the turning point between this is fun and this is real. When a man is deciding whether a woman is the one of the most important things he pays attention to, whether consciously or not, is whether she has standards and, more importantly, whether she lives by them. It's not enough to say you know your worth. A man watches how you enforce your boundaries, how you respond when something doesn't align with your values, and how willing you are to walk away from situations that don't serve you. That's what earns his respect. That's what makes him see you as different from everyone else. Many people confuse being easygoing or chill with being attractive, thinking that saying yes to everything and never making waves will make them more likable. But a woman who has no boundaries quickly loses her individuality in a man's eyes. She becomes someone who blends in, not someone who stands out. It might feel good in the moment when things are light and agreeable, but over time, he stops seeing her as a long-term partner because she doesn't show him who she really is. On the other hand, when a woman communicates her needs clearly and follows through with action, she creates a sense of stability and clarity in the relationship. She becomes someone he can trust, not just with his heart, but with his future. A man might not always like being told no or being held to a higher standard, but he will respect it. And more than that, he will value it because deep down he knows that a woman who holds herself to high standards will also hold the relationship to a high standard, which means they're not just playing games, they're building something real. This doesn't mean being rigid or cold. It doesn't mean giving ultimatums over small disagreements. It means having emotional maturity to say, this is what I need in a relationship, and being willing to walk away if it's not there. That creates an unspoken power, not manipulative power, but authentic confidence. It's the kind of energy that says, I want you, but I don't need you to validate me. I won't settle for a version of love that doesn't feel aligned with who I am. And when a man meets a woman like that, it shakes him in the best way, because it forces him to reflect on what he's bringing to the table too. It invites him to rise to her level, not out of fear, but out of inspiration. It triggers something primal in him, the desire to win her trust, to earn his place beside her. Not because she's hard to please, but because she's not afraid to lose someone who isn't right for her. It's important to understand that this doesn't push the right man away. It actually draws him in closer. The wrong man, the one who wants to coast, who doesn't want to grow, who's only looking for something casual, he'll be intimidated or turned off. And that's exactly what should happen. Your standards aren't there to scare good men away. They're there to filter out the ones who never had real intentions in the first place. A woman with standards communicates that her love is valuable, that her time, energy, and emotional investment are not given out freely to just anyone who shows interest. And that creates desire on a deeper level, not just desire rooted in physical attraction or temporary excitement, but desire built on admiration, respect, and emotional safety. That's the foundation of real commitment. So when a man sees a woman who doesn't compromise herself just to keep someone around. It changes how he sees her. He doesn't see her as someone to impress for a moment. He sees her as someone to choose for a lifetime. There's a powerful shift that happens in a man's mind when he meets a woman who inspires him. Not just someone who entertains him or makes him feel good in the moment, but someone who makes him want to become a better version of himself. That kind of inspiration doesn't come from trying too hard to impress or constantly doing more. It comes from the way a woman lives her life, the energy she carries, and the standard she holds for herself. It's not about being perfect or having it all figured out. It's about having passion, direction, and a sense of purpose that's evident in how she shows up every day. Men are naturally drawn to women who are lit up by something outside the relationship. Could be her career, a creative pursuit, a cause she's committed to, or simply the way she invests in her own growth. When a man sees that a woman has a life she's genuinely excited about, it signals something rare. She isn't looking for a relationship to complete her. She's looking for a relationship to complement an already fulfilling life. That creates a totally different kind of attraction. It's not rooted in neediness. It's rooted in mutual respect and admiration. When a woman is living with purpose, she becomes magnetic, not in the loud attention-grabbing way, but in the subtle, irresistible way that makes a man think, there's something about her I can't shake. She doesn't need to constantly text him, remind him of her worth, or try to win him over. Her energy does that work for her. He starts to see her not just as someone who makes him feel good, but someone he wants to build something with. Someone he can envision standing beside him when life gets hard, because she has her own resilience and vision. This kind of woman doesn't chase, she attracts. And she attracts the kind of man who's not intimidated by her strength, but inspired by it. He doesn't want to dim her light, he wants to stand in it. He's not looking to compete with her independence, he wants to complement it. And when a man feels inspired by the woman he's with, it activates a different level of commitment in him. He doesn't want to risk losing someone who makes him feel like he's becoming the man he wants to be. One of the biggest misconceptions is that being inspiring means constantly doing big things or achieving major milestones. But inspiration is often quiet. It's in the way she treats people, the consistency with which she shows up for herself, the way she holds space for others without losing herself in the process. A woman who has depth, who's grounded, who knows what she values, that's someone who makes a man think not just about her, but about the kind of life he wants to create. What makes this so powerful is that it bypasses superficial attraction and goes straight to emotional significance. A man might be drawn to many women, but he only commits deeply when he sees someone who adds meaning to his life. And when you live in a way that reminds him of what's possible, not by preaching it, but by being it, you become unforgettable. You become the woman who doesn't just fit into his present, but expands his future. Inspiration builds emotional gravity. It makes a man want to be around you, not because he needs entertainment, but because being near you elevates him. He starts to feel more alive, more motivated, more centered when you're in his world. That kind of connection doesn't fade, it deepens. And over time, he doesn't just want to date you, he wants to protect what he has with you because he knows it's rare. That's the kind of energy that makes a man think she's the one. One of the biggest myths in dating is that a man needs to be convinced to commit. That if you say the right things, act the right way, or wait long enough, he'll eventually decide you're worth choosing. But real commitment doesn't come from pressure. It comes from a deep internal decision. And the truth is, a man chooses the one, not when he feels forced into it, but when he feels like he's choosing her of his own free will, when he feels chosen by her, not trapped. There's a powerful distinction between making a man feel wanted and making him feel obligated. When a man feels that being with a woman is a conscious choice, not a duty, everything changes. He's not motivated by guilt, fear, or expectation. He's motivated by genuine desire. He wants to be there. He wants to show up. And that kind of emotional motivation is what creates a lasting, passionate, committed relationship. So how do you make a man feel chosen, not trapped? It starts with having your own emotional independence. When a woman is secure in herself, when she's happy with her own life and knows she can walk away from anything that doesn't align with her values, She automatically creates a space for healthy connection. She doesn't cling. She doesn't chase. She invites. And when a man feels that he's with someone who wants him but doesn't need him to feel whole, it makes him value the relationship even more. The energy of choice is subtle but powerful. It shows up in how you handle conflict, how you talk about the future, and even in the little moments where you show appreciation without attachment. It's the balance of being emotionally open but not emotionally dependent, when you make it clear through your actions, not just your words, that you're with him because you want to be, not because you're afraid of being alone. You give him the space to fully step into the relationship with his whole heart. On the other hand, when a man feels like he's being backed into a corner, when he senses that your happiness depends on his decisions or that the relationship is becoming a checklist of obligations, he starts to pull away. Not because he doesn't care, but because no one wants to feel like they're losing their freedom in order to be with someone. Real love doesn't feel like a trap. It feels like a conscious, empowered yes. And here's the paradox. The less you try to control the outcome, the more control you actually have over your experience. When you show up with self-respect, emotional strength, and a willingness to walk away if your needs aren't being met, you naturally attract a man who wants to meet those needs. Not because you asked him to, but because he wants to. That's the difference between convincing someone and inspiring someone. When a man feels chosen, when he feels like you see him, value him, and still have the strength to walk away if he doesn't show up, he rises to the occasion. He sees you as someone who respects herself so deeply that she would never settle for less than what she deserves. And that makes him want to be the man who earns your choice every day. This dynamic is what separates temporary attraction from long-term devotion. You don't get there by playing hard to get or by being unavailable just to create scarcity. You get there by being fully in your worth, fully present and unafraid to choose love, but only when it's real, mutual, and freely given. That's what makes a man not only fall for you, but stay with you. Because he doesn't feel like he was pressured into something. He feels like he made the most important choice of his life, and he chose you. It's not about how much you do for him, how perfect you look, or how long you've waited. It's about how you make him feel within himself and within the relationship. When you bring peace into his life instead of pressure, when your values and ambition align with his own, when you admire who he is and not just what he gives you, when you stand firm in your standards, when you live a life that inspires him, and when you let him choose you without trying to control the outcome, that's when something shifts inside him. That's when he stops seeing you as just someone he's dating and starts seeing you as someone he could build his life with. At the end of the day, the most powerful thing you can be is not someone who waits to be chosen, but someone who chooses herself first. That kind of self-worth is what makes a man realize he doesn't just want to be with you. He never wants to let you go.